were able to bid on any of the spots in line to face John in a silent auction, with many of them trying to get an edge over John by finding the perfect spot in order to beat him. Face him too early, and John might be too fresh. Face him too late, and he might already have been beaten. Despite strategizing, one after the other fell before John Brzezink's mighty right arm that day, and nobody claimed the cash prize. Who's that arm wrestler? It's Vitaly Laletin.
You talk a lot. I'm ready right now.
Who's that arm wrestler? It's Cobra Rhodes.
I am ready to arm wrestle now. Can I arm wrestle now?
The Russian juggernaut Denis Iplenkov has been gripping people's attention in the strength world for a long time now, and for good reason. But how exactly did he manage to get such a strong foothold, arm hold, on the arm wrestling scene? And what are the ups and downs in his career? I am the Arm Historian, and today I'll be your tour guide as we take a look at the rise and fall of Denis Iplenkov. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you might be. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday so far. Is my stream lagging? Seems like I'm lagging quite a bit. Might be the... Let me try turning it off. Might be the snow. Get some music going here too. Hey James Stewart, how you doing, man? Happy holidays, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, I think it was the snow that was making my stream lag like crazy. Mr. Peanut, what's up, man? Good to see you. Hope you all are having a wonderful Sunday out there in the arm wrestling world. Hey, glad you could make it for once, James. I'll try, hang on, turning the snow back on. Yeah. It's like lagging the stream like crazy. Oh yeah, no snow unfortunately. What's on the docket for today? Pretty chill stream. Gonna be talking about what's been going on in the arm wrestling world for the past week since we last had a live stream, and then also potentially take a look at some of the topics we're gonna be talking about in one of my upcoming really big videos, which is kind of a follow-up on the arm wrestling iceberg video from a while ago. So yeah, that's what's gonna happen today. Probably not gonna be a super long stream. I'm pretty tired. But yeah, I'll try to keep my energy up for you guys. Hey Spinner, how you doing? Season's greetings to all of you. Anyone watch Engin Part 1? What is Engin Part 1 that you're referring to, James? I know Engin is... He had a match, or he's gonna have a match versus Artur Makarov, but I didn't really keep up with all that. This match, no, so I didn't watch it yet. Is anything out on it yet? Let me quickly check his YouTube channel. Engin put out round 1, interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. I probably won't be showing most of it because good chance my channel might get a strike if I do that. But yeah, I will check it out briefly here. I know he did have a rematch with Artur Makarov, but I haven't seen... Like, where did he put it out? On his social media, or... Ah, it's a short, okay. Yeah, we might be able to take a quick look at that here. Let me see if I can share that with you guys. Here we go. Hey Chuck, how you doing? Merry Christmas, my man. Good to see you. Good to see you. I hope you're doing really well. You're having some good holidays there. Vladimir, welcome. Yeah. I'm always a little I'm a little careful when I'm showing certain people's content because I know there's people who are more trigger happy with that kind of stuff than others. Usually, like most of the arm wrestling content creators out there are pretty good with like sticking to YouTube's fair use policy. But I know Engin wasn't always that way. So yeah. Vladimir says, to me it looked as if Artur wasn't trying in that round. Interesting. I'll take a quick look here. I don't think we're doing anything wrong. So yeah, looks like Engin is kind of holding on to Artur here. Or like Artur is holding on to Engin, I should say. Engin going full on offensive. Managed to pin Artur. So yeah, very short. I don't think we're doing anything wrong by showing this really briefly. Yeah, seems like Engin got the better of Artur. Artur also, like I don't know if you guys can see it, but Artur using a riser here. Engin isn't. So yeah, interesting. Hey Roy, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome. Yeah. Good on Engin, I guess. I wonder what the full match is like. Yeah. I see like how many rounds was it? I don't know. Best 3 out of 5, I'm guessing, but it might be best 2 out of 3. I don't know what they decided on. Maybe Engin put out something about that. Let's take a look. Doesn't really say here. No, it doesn't really say here. I mean, Engin is looking strong, and he looked strong in that match, in that round, so yeah. Very hard to predict what the rest of the match looks like, of course. Hey Testo, what's up, man? Good to see you. Welcome. Yeah, hard to predict. I don't know. Seems like he was getting the better of Artur, so might be a continuation of the rest of the match. I don't know. It's interesting that he put it out like one round of the match on his shorts on his YouTube channel. I don't know where we can watch the full match or if it was even live streamed. Let's see if we can glean a little more info from his posts here on YouTube. It's just what Artur is saying about Engin. I know there's been quite a bit of controversy around, like Engin saying he would have won that match but then getting injured and stuff like that. Here we have Artur Makarov saying, I always dominate the center except against Engin. Trying to dominate center against him is useless as I have to recover from a bad position. After failing to dominate center, my realistic option is trying to stop him and then beat him after he gets tired. So there is that, I guess. Let me quickly pull up something here that I wanted to discuss with you guys too. About Georgia versus World, because there has been some info. I think the last time we talked about this, Georgia versus World was putting on their event in December, like in a couple of days, like December 28th. Yeah, here we go. But there has been some new updates on that one. Let's take a quick look here. Hang on 1 second, guys. Switch accounts really quick. Yeah, as far as I could tell, the event is postponed until February, which is interesting. Same month that the next East versus West is happening, I do believe. Spinner says, are you doing end of year awards, Arm Historian? I don't know. What would that look like in practice? I was thinking about maybe doing some kind of tier list of like the top matches of the last year, something like that, but haven't really put anything into practice. I'm also working on like 3 videos at the same time or something, so didn't have a lot of time to prepare anything yet. But if it's like a low investment of time, I might be able to set something up for the new year. Chuck says, are they just trying to fight East versus West? I don't know, man. I don't know how they manage, but they will sell even less pay-per-view. I agree, it's really iffy that they're choosing to put on the event in February, right? To be fair, it doesn't say a specific date, so it might be like a couple of weeks before or after East versus West, but yeah, interesting. Chuck says, by the way, there might be a chance I'm coming to the next East versus West to Austria. Interesting, yeah, I might be coming too. It kind of depends. Let me quickly check something here. If East versus West is happening, I need to see the exact date again. Um, 68 days. What is the exact date that East versus West is happening? Can someone tell me? Because I know my country's nationals will be happening in February too, so if it's on the same weekend, I might not be able to make it, but there is a small chance that I'll be at this East versus West if the stars align. So yeah, it would be really cool to see you there, Chuck. Hey, the lucky ones, how you doing? Good to see you. Happy holidays. Mr. Peanut says, Georgia versus World is trying to position itself as a WAF Pro League. Chuck says 26th of February. Yeah, that might... I don't think that's during my nationals. I think my nationals like a week or two before that. So, yeah, sounds like I might be able to make it there. It would be really cool if I could meet you there, Chuck. Would love that, honestly. Would love that. So yeah, we definitely need to catch up before that time comes and see if we're both going. Would be great. Mr. Peanut, what do you mean, man? Georgia versus World is trying to position itself as a WAF Pro League. Failing hard. Like, in which way are they trying to position themselves as a WAF Pro League? What do you mean by that exactly? So yeah, Georgia versus World says here, important announcement: due to unforeseen personal circumstances, several athletes who were scheduled to compete at Georgia versus World 2 have officially confirmed they will not be able to participate on December 28th. Yeah, unforeseen personal circumstances. So, a little vague there. After internal discussions between sponsor and our team members, we made the decision to move Georgia versus World 2 to February to ensure a complete and high-level match card, fair replacement, not rushed fixes, the quality standard Georgia versus World is building its name on, which is a bold statement. And then it goes on to say Georgia versus West 2 is not cancelled. It's being strengthened, in fact. And a new official February date. Updated matchups and full details will be announced soon. Thank you to everyone who supports Georgia versus World and understands that long-term credibility is greater than short-term pressure. Long-term credibility greater than short-term pressure. They're kind of giving a dig to all the naysayers, right? It's interesting how little traction these posts are actually getting. Like 7 likes, 1 comment, 2 shares. Yeah. Interesting, very interesting. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I've been open about what I thought of Georgia versus World so far, and like not paying your athletes allegedly, to me is like one of the worst things you can do as a tournament. It's happened many times before throughout arm wrestling history, and it never ended well for the league that did that, or the organization that did something like that. So yeah, it's one of the worst things you can do, and with good reason, right? Hey Reno, how you doing, man? Because who is this guy? Where is the army historian? I'm still right here, never left, just using my human form from time to time. Which is interesting because Reno, one of the few people who actually interacted with my human form before. How you doing, Reno? Hope you're well. Roy says, I hope Georgia versus World succeed. Yeah, I'm for as much. I've said this before, many times before during my lives. I think competition between leagues and having more leagues available as a viewer is a positive. And I never wish any arm wrestling association or someone that's trying to do something new within the arm wrestling world, I never wish failure upon them. I always hope they succeed in what they want to do. But I think it shouldn't be at the cost of athletes, right? I think one of the main things you have to provide for as a tournament organizer is your athletes. Especially if you've got contracts in place and you promise certain things. In order to maintain some credibility moving forward as an organization, I think that's like one of the main things you have to do. So in that sense, I'm like, I can't root for them too hard. But in a general sense, I do believe that it's good if arm wrestling tournaments and events succeed and are financially viable, stuff like that. The more that happens within our sport, the more it's a good sign that things are going in the right direction, you know what I mean? So in that sense, I am rooting for each and every organizing event, each and every arm wrestling event out there. But yeah. Hey Chuck, thank you for the membership. 15 months already. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Chuck, one of the biggest supporters of the channel. Really great guy, has helped me with videos before. Brought great ideas for videos to me. Yeah, just overall great guy. Hope to meet you at the upcoming East versus West if we're both making it. Vladimir says Robert will update Devon's fight later tonight. Maybe Alijan will finally get back to the table. Yeah. I hope so. There's been a lot of stuff going on with the whole Artyom Morozov versus Devon match. So yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I can't keep up with what's going on over there. So if anyone can fill me in on that. I don't think the match is happening anymore, and now they're looking for like a new candidate to face Devon. Reno says, oh, that's a relief. I'm doing good. Hope you are doing well. Also, I'm doing fine. A little tired. Very busy period right now. But yeah, good to hear, Reno, that you're doing well. Good to hear. Reno, are you gonna let Chafee keep your title, says Roy. Not for too long, says Reno. Well, it's very kind of you to give him some time in the spotlight. In the 115s. Very nice of you, Reno. Braxton says, have you seen the last match of December, Engin and Arthur? Actually, we did take a look at it earlier in the stream. Engin put out round 1 of the match, and we took a quick sneaky look at that one during the live stream here. Which, spoilers, Engin won that first round. I don't know what happened during the rest of the match, but Engin won the first round versus Arthur Makarov in pretty convincing fashion. I mean, wasn't just straight to the path, but it looked like he was on the winning side the entire time, so yeah. Reno says, yes, I was in his corner. Interesting, Reno. Interesting. Very interesting. I don't know if they put out the entire match yet. I don't even know if they live streamed it, to be honest. No idea. I wanted to take a quick look. I ate too much, damn. I wanted to take a quick look at, because I'm working on a new video, like a part 2 of the iceberg video I worked on some time ago, or I put out some time ago. And I wanted to take a quick look at some of you guys' suggestions, because I did post on my channel, my community tab, for like interesting facts and tidbits about arm wrestling that people could bring to me. Now, for those of you that don't know, this is kind of the research page Chuck and I created for the original iceberg video, in which we had a whole slew of topics. We didn't end up picking all of them, but kind of gradations of obscurity throughout arm wrestling and like interesting facts and stuff like that, you know what I mean? For those of you that aren't aware of arm wrestling, or like not arm wrestling, but iceberg videos in general. You'll have to forgive me, I'm a little tired here. But stuff like in tier 1, you'd find stuff like Over the Top, for example, something most people are aware of, even if they aren't deep into arm wrestling. Arm wrestling as a professional sport, arm wrestling styles, very basic stuff. Then moving on for that, you have stuff like Game of Arms, for example, or the King's Move in tier 2. Moving on for that, you have stuff like Arm Sumo, or what made arm wrestling popular in the East, Enemy of the Sport meme, stuff like that. And then you go more obscure, you have stuff like Johnny Walker here, which a lot of people who got recently into the sport may not be aware of him. The Arm Wrestling Wives, like a whole bunch of stuff here. And then you go even deeper and you have like bionics being used in arm wrestling, or the Indian arm wrestling scene. Mr. Peanut is on here, who's in stream right now. So yeah, you'll see a couple of topics here that we didn't cover in the original video, so those might carry over into the second video. But right now I'm like collecting as many interesting topics as I can. So if you guys know any that you'd like to share with me, or you would like to see me explore a little in the next video, feel free to shoot them over and they might be featured. Now, I put out a post on my channel some time ago asking for the second part of my arm wrestling iceberg video. I'm looking for arm wrestling related facts. Share me some of your most obscure references, theories, or tidbits about our wonderfully weird sport, and I thought we could take a look at them together here. Didn't get that many responses, but did get a few. That might be interesting. Vladimir says, can you share in which weight category? Are you talking about the Engin match? Because that was in 80, I think. But you might be talking about in which category Reno will be coming back, which I'm guessing is the 115, right? Hey, TOS Move, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Let's see here. Black Dragon said, I heard somewhere that the reason that the Decline Humorous fall exists is because Engin got injured playing with a King's Mover. I did hear this before, and I even think I know which match they're referring to. There is some footage of it out there. Let me see if I can pull it up. I think I covered it in my Engin episode, actually, but it's such a long episode, so it might take me a while to find it. Let's see if we can pull it up for you guys, so you kind of have some context here. Now, I'm not saying anything on the veracity of this claim, because to be honest, if you would ask me my opinion, I don't think that's true necessarily. But it is a rumor that exists and has been going around for a while. And if I'm not mistaken, Engin denies it vehemently. I don't know if it's this one. I'm not sure. I don't think so, actually, but... yeah, I don't think it's this one. I think it was earlier, even. Yeah, it was earlier. Yeah, here we go. Yep. I think people are referring to this match. Royce, is a certain Canadian, is pushing that rumor hard. Interesting. So yeah, there is a rumor, and I believe it's this match, but don't quote me on that, that because of this match, Engin got the declined humors rule into the rule books, you know what I mean? Or that this was kind of the start of that evolution in arm wrestling rules. Like I said, personally, I don't think I really believe in the validity of that rumor, but it is interesting. Chuck says, do you still watch Devon, by the way? Like his matches and stuff? Yeah. Not so much his content that he puts out every day, or like nearly every day. But some of it here and there, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I have my doubts, like I said. But it is a rumor that is going around, apparently, or that has been going around for a very, very long time. Yeah, I hear you, Chuck. I hear you on that one. Braxton says, I think the King's move is fine, but I also think the decline foul is fine. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a fine rule. The decline humorous rule. But yeah, King's move is a part of arm wrestling. Whether you like the move from an aesthetic standpoint or not, it is a part of arm wrestling. And is beatable very clearly. So yeah. Talking about Petrenko match here with Devon. Yeah, I know that a lot of people have been kind of went down on Devon quite a bit after that match, and I get why. My personal opinion is he went overboard with his antics on the table during that match. Totally unnecessary, in my opinion. Doesn't make me write Devon off like fully or something like that. Just something that didn't sit super well with me either. I've talked about it a couple of times before. Yeah. I don't think it was necessary. My opinion. Didn't really notice a shift in his videos, but then again, I never like consumed that many Devon Larratt videos, so couldn't tell you honestly. So yeah, that's one on here with 5 upvotes. Tomer says, just a few from the top of my head. But Hutchings used to have a killer handlebar mustache, but the power was too much for him to behold, so he had to shave it for his own safety. I do like stuff like that. I don't know if it's quite substantial or meaty enough to put in the video, but I do appreciate stuff like that. He also says 3 days before Angerbayev beat Kurdecha at top 8, he was doing hard practice pulls with Devon, which he sourced from an old Engin live. That's an interesting one. That can maybe like be put in a bigger point of like arm wrestlers not showing up in top shape or something like that. Yeah, I would have to think about how I would put that in a succinct point in the video itself, of course. Roy says, what are your opinions on the current new ownership of East vs. West? I think I like the new owners of East vs. West. I think they've done, like, by and large, a very good job. I prefer it over the old ownership in many ways, if I'm being completely honest. I have a long and storied history with Mr. Thursday as far as my channel goes, and even some interactions we've had on the phone. I've had a phone call with him before. I know he hates the video I put out on him, even though I think I was very honest and laudatory about him in the video. We've had some run-ins before, so that might make my opinion a little biased. But I do like the direction the new management is taking the league in. I think they're improving most of the time. I have some gripes with the way they handle certain things, but even those things they're improving on and doing way better. So, yeah, I like it. I like the direction the league is going in. And I'm not one to say that just because it's like the biggest league out there and I don't want to like alienate them. Because I've been vocal before about my criticisms of East versus West. But just in general, I think they're doing a good job. Yeah. Chuck says, like, he started being cocky, talking about Devin, I think, more aggressively before he did it a bit more naturally. At least it felt like that. Yeah, I can see that. Braxton says you should definitely mention other arm wrestling content, especially Arm Wrestling Academia, or how informational it is. Yeah, I've mentioned content plenty of times before on my live streams, even in videos and stuff. I'd like to give credit where credit is due, obviously, and I think there's a lot of great arm wrestling content creators around. That being said, I do wish there was a little more collaborative efforts between, especially on YouTube, between arm wrestling content creators. And I'm part of that issue, you know, because I don't reach out to a ton of them, to a ton of other channels either. But I do wish there was more collaborations going on there. Maybe I should look into facilitating that partly myself, for sure. In the iceberg, that's a good point actually, Braxton. Yeah, that's a good point. That's actually a really good suggestion. Yeah, I like that. I should put in like a couple of different channels in that iceberg video. That's really good actually. Thank you. Calvin Jones says Devin's behavior was really erratic around the time of the Petrenko match. I thought it might be PED related, as it seemed unlike his usual self and really vicious. Might be. It's always a thing, like you don't know what's going on behind the scene, right? In an athlete's personal life, and nor should we. You know what I mean? I don't think we should become like a sport that's prying into an athlete's personal life if they don't share it publicly. If they share it publicly, I think it's fair game, obviously. But other than that, I don't think we should be prying that much. But yeah, PED usage is definitely something that I can see attributing to certain behavior in athletes, since it is so ubiquitous in our sport. You can't get away from the effect that PED has on athletes in general. Not only their strength, but like you said, on the way they act on the table as well. I think that's just a fact, you know, like denying that or getting angry about me mentioning that is like useless, because it's so clear that 99% of elite arm wrestlers are probably on some form of PED, and it's also very clear from just the science around PEDs that they have an influence on your emotional state and your mind state as well. So yeah, I think that goes without saying. that PDs are always involved in the way an arm wrestler acts on stage in some capacity, to some capacity, you know what I mean. Tomer also said Dennis lives in a homemade house made of wood logs in the countryside of Russia. Interesting. Yeah, I do know Dennis comes from very, how do I say this? Dennis comes from very modest beginnings. I know, like, along with his parents, they had trouble finding a lot of food when they were young. They mostly consumed food that they grew themselves. Which I'm not saying that's not a dig against Dennis or like saying they were poor or something like that. I'm just saying like they struggled a little bit when Dennis was younger, which only like I think contributes to the fact that he is a great athlete. Because I don't think it's easy developing yourself as a young man when you don't even have access to all the necessary nutrition, right? So yeah, that is interesting. It might be something worth mentioning in the iceberg video. Braxton says there's definitely an arm wrestling content issue with slop arm wrestling news channels like Concrete Elbow, Tom Stubblebean, and Pradeep, etc. Yeah, to a degree, I agree with you there. I've talked about it many times before. There are some channels that take the quote-unquote easy way out. And I think with like the AI being more present today makes that even more of an issue at times. For sure, I can see that. I do think they have their place, right? People consume it and people ask for it. There's clearly a demand for it within the arm wrestling content creation space. So I can't really fault creators for taking that route just because there is such a demand for it. If they wouldn't be doing it, someone else would be. So yeah, I can't really fault them for it. That being said, I don't consume a lot of that content myself. Nearly any of that content myself. James Stewart was in chat some time ago, said, did Engin really get a bone shortened? Now this is an interesting one. I personally hadn't heard that before. I think they're talking about maybe he had some kind of elective surgery done to get his bone shortened, or maybe like relating to another surgery he had to get done and he asked the doctor to get the bone shortened or something like that. I don't know. I'm just totally guessing here. It sounds like an unfounded rumor and like something that isn't true at face value. But if anyone knows anything more about that rumor, feel free to tell me. Because I hadn't heard that before. That is completely new to me. Maybe James, who was in chat here earlier, if he's still in chat, he can maybe comment on that. But yeah, I hadn't heard of that before, personally. Backs and Decks, I like that one, Roy. Kind of reminds me of Jack and Daxter or something. Testo, who was also in chat earlier, says, say that your left arm gets injured. According to Devon, your uninjured right arm becomes stronger. So yeah, this is one of these things. He's referring to Pumpkin, right? And I couldn't remember for the life of me if I actually mentioned that in the original Iceberg video. I don't think so, but I think that's like one of the big ones that I overlooked. Way of the Giant Pumpkin, to put it in Devon's words, seems something that is like very applicable for this kind of video. So definitely something I'm gonna be including if I didn't in the first part. Because it seems so obvious, right? Seems very obvious. But thanks to Testo for reminding me of that. Chuck says, reading Peanut's comments, I'm more and more convinced that he can transform reality based on his YouTube comments. Yeah, so here we come to Mr. Peanut's comments. And Mr. Peanut, for those of you that don't know, he was in chat earlier. I don't know if he still is. Very prolific commenter in the online arm wrestling space, and very distinct comments. Like if you come across a Mr. Peanut comment without even looking at the profile picture and the name, you'll know it's a Mr. Peanut comment. Maybe that'll become clear when I read you this comment. Mr. Peanut says, Snoopy from Peanuts, cartoon and Petaluma. In 1968, Charles Schulz did a series of 11 cartoons about Snoopy, wrist wrestling at Petaluma, featured in 75 countries, 21 languages, with readership of over 300 million in 1968. Then he goes on to say the first significant media events for arm sports. This was the most significant moment in arm sports of the 20th century, launching Petaluma wrist wrestling, and for the first time arm sports into the world spotlight for the first time. And all as Peanuts, the studio audience waited for Sunday's paper to find out what happened to Snoopy. Now, the interesting thing about Mr. Peanut's comment is sometimes it reads to me like an AI comment, but I think I know that it isn't an AI comment. Because I see Mr. Peanut commenting on videos, arm wrestling videos, for quite a while before AI was really that out there. So to my knowledge, this isn't AI, and this is just the way Mr. Peanut talks. Yeah, Mr. Peanut in the chat. So to me, one of the true characters of the online arm wrestling community, Mr. Peanut. Yeah, love him. Love me some Peanut. He goes on to say here, Snoopy was ultimately disqualified from competition because he has no thumb and was unable to establish a base thumb grip, which is, to me, just a very funny little tidbit he added there. Braxton says AI asks Mr. Peanut for answers, not the other way around. Yeah. Like that one too. Alan Leonard says crabs. Apparently everything is trying to evolve into crabs. Soon it will all be about pincer control and sidestep. I like this comment. This comment got a chuckle out of me. Obviously not going to include that in the iceberg, but really enjoyed that one there, Alan. Kingsmove Social Club also often in the live streams talks about the ancient origins of arm wrestling, going back to a fact, quote-unquote, that I see repeated often. Those of you who have been long-time watchers of my channel know that this is like a personal pet peeve of mine, you could say. All these claims about arm wrestling showing up in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs as far back as 2000 BC and stuff like that. As far as I can tell, in my research, just untrue. I know there's been some article written by some dude who claims he's an Egyptologist or something, who found like depictions of arm wrestling in a tomb somewhere. But when you actually try to look for it, firstly, it's very hard to find the full context of that, and whether that's even a legitimate article in the first place. But beyond that, if you look at the depictions he's referring, they just seem like some kind of ritualistic images that don't even look like arm wrestling, really. It's just like two people holding hands or something amidst the whole series of different like dance move depictions and like what to me looks very clearly to be some kind of ritualistic depictions of something Egyptians got up to in that time. I've done personal research on the first actual visual depiction I could find of actual arm wrestling. Like not something that you could say like, oh, if I squint my eyes in the right way, this could kind of be arm wrestling, or not. Like I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, they've been doing it during Roman times and stuff like that, and I ask for sources, never get them, where people are actually talking about Romans arm wrestling. It's always like, oh no, it's like a legend I heard from my dad or my uncle or something. But the earliest actual depictions I could find of arm wrestling are from 17th century Japan. That's just me. In my research, what I could find, in a limited time frame, granted. So if anyone out there ever has actual proof of arm wrestling being mentioned earlier than that, it doesn't even have to be a visual depiction of arm wrestling, but just some kind of text, manuscript, whatever, a book before the 17th century talking about how they used arm wrestling or did arm wrestling in some capacity, I'd love to read it. I think the chances are even pretty big it's out there somewhere, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't find any proof for the life of me of arm wrestling happening before the 17th century. Now, of course, arm wrestling did happen way before that. I think arm wrestling probably goes back a really long time, but I can't find any reference for it. Nowhere. Oh yeah. Roy says, what about the gladiators or that period? Yeah, I've looked in ancient history, couldn't find it. Now, okay, I didn't go reading through every piece of literature that's out there, obviously, but I did try to cross-reference certain stuff and just couldn't find it. One of our oldest documented armed sports champions was also a king. Author George Anton Schaefer tells of his personal story in his book, second of a series of 3 arm wrestling Kamehameha. Yeah, you're talking about Hawaiian arm wrestling, right? I'm assuming here, which also goes back far. Now, I couldn't find one that was older than my sources from Japan. I did find old sources from Hawaii talking about Uma and Pa'uma, stuff like that, which is actual arm wrestling. But I couldn't find anything earlier than the Japanese one. So if you have a true reference for me, Mr. Peanut, that's verifiably earlier than the 17th century, I'd love to take a look at it, for sure. Mr. Peanut says, BS nonsense about Egypt. That rumor was started by post to Wikipedia and then shared multiple times. Yeah, that's true. There you go. Mr. Peanut has been posting content online since 1997, so it wouldn't be so far-fetched. I think AI would use some of Mr. Peanut stuff. But yeah, I couldn't for the life of me find anything verifiable talking about arm wrestling before the 17th century. That's me. I'd love to see it. I'm sure people arm wrestled all the time before then. And I'm sure there's, I would think there are published works that reference arm wrestling before that time. I just couldn't spend the time trying to dig them up. With the limited time I had, those were the earliest sources I could find. So yeah, there you go. This is an interesting one. Arm Nation documentary, a 2018 APTN documentary series titled Arm Nation, focused on indigenous arm wrestlers across the country, highlighting individuals from communities such as the Mistissini and the Mi'kmaq, and exploring how the sport connects with their heritage and resilience. Yeah, I saw a lot of references to quote-unquote Indian arm wrestling, like Native American tribes, or indigenous American tribes, however you want to call it, participating in some form of arm wrestling. I do think most of their traditions are oral based, like just oral traditions passed down from generation to generation. So very hard for me to actually verify any of that. Mr. Peanut says, Japan is oldest documented arm sports. I agree there, Mr. Peanut. The oldest one I could find, personally. In my very limited research, to be fair. It's not like I spent months and months researching this. That would make me a crazy person. But in my couple of weeks of research, that's all I found. So yeah, thank you for everyone who commented here. I greatly appreciate you contributing. I know there's, like, I should pull up my the previous video because I know there's more good suggestions on there, like people commenting on the video itself. Braxton says there's probably been tons of historical documentation, but unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of written work pre-1800s has been lost. Yeah, like the overwhelming majority of written works just throughout history has been lost, obviously. So yeah, I do think, in my heart of heart, I believe that there has to be almost some kind of reference somewhere from before the 17th century, but the amount of work that is still preserved is of such a big volume that I just can't keep digging through it, trying to find some obscure reference to arm wrestling or whatever it was called in that piece of work. Like, it's just, I can do that, I can put that time into. So unless something ever gets discovered by someone else, or I happen to run across something, or someone contacts me saying, hey, I found this in some obscure manuscript of medieval peasants or something, I don't know, whatever, I can't find it. Plenty of stories out there of, like, all kinds of things, you know, like one that I hear a lot is like, and I hear this across cultures, is soldiers that selected, or like generals that selected their best soldiers based on arm wrestling, and it goes back for centuries, and they used to do it in Roman times and stuff like that. Yeah, like every time I've asked for, like, that's really cool, like, show me where you found that, all I get back is like, oh, I heard this in school, or like, my uncle used to tell me about that. So yeah, well, I do appreciate those stories, and I did look into that to see if I could find any reference to it. Unfortunately, it never really turned out to be anything more than that. Anything more than just hearsay, you know what I mean? And I can't base anything on that, unfortunately. That's really cool. Mr. Peanut says, as a crazy person, I can say it's Japan Maki Games in Hawaii oldest tournament setting. That's cool. I'll have to look into that for sure, Mr. Peanut. For sure. But yeah, I know certain people's eyes glaze over when I talk about this stuff. I personally find it super interesting, but I know not everyone finds it as interesting as I even had, like, one of the only videos where I was called out by another content creator was about this topic. Was about a guy talking about that. Which, let's see if I can, maybe I can still find it. I'm gonna see if I can find that video by chance. I don't know if that video is still online, but there was a guy who was calling me out, kind of. I doubt it. I doubt that I can find it. Yeah, it's gonna be buried too much. If someone has that video, feel free to shoot me a link, but it's such a long time. It was basically a guy saying that, yeah, calling my video out on the history of the sport, but yeah, can't really dig it up, unfortunately, it seems. Maybe I'll do that for the next live stream. I'll go over that one again really briefly. But I think it might be worth looking at some comments of the previous iceberg video and seeing if, because I know there's a couple of suggestions in there. A couple of good suggestions. Hey Chuck, have a good night, man. Hope you sleep well. Thanks for the boob historian emojis. Yeah, Mr. Peanut, I did see a lot of that, like the finger wrestling I did see out there. Braxton says, I love sports history. That's what your entire channel is about, to be fair. Yeah, I just love history in general. I'm a big history buff. I took a lot of history classes in university, so I'm really into it. But yeah, it's with arm wrestling, the research you can do is pretty limited. Who called you out, says Roy? Can't even remember his name. I think you can look it up in one of my previous live stream videos, probably a year ago now or something like that. I think. Let's take a look if we get some other ones here. We have here, please cover the news of Devon bragging about taking LSD. Okay. Yeah, I might make a topic on that in the new iceberg video, like hallucinogenics in arm wrestling. I don't know. Tell me I'm the greatest. That's a good quote that I can definitely put in there with some context. Devon learning phrases in his opponent's language should also be here. That's not bad. Kind of like that one. Here we have Chuck supporting the channel as usual. Thank you so much, Chuck. This video, by the way, pretty successful video. Did pretty well. 88k views, especially for a 35-minute video, is not bad at all. Where's Pushkar? That's not a bad one. That's not a bad one. Might include Pushkar in the next iceberg video. Let's see if we can find some other ones. What about Austin raw dogging Jaggers? Like, there's been quite a bit of arm wrestlers, and I've made mention of some of them throughout some videos where it was relevant. But there's been quite a bit of arm wrestlers who got in trouble with the law. And I've thought before about making like an entire video on that, like the bad boys of arm wrestling or something like that. But some of them are not that bad, I feel like, and would maybe fit with the channel. I wouldn't mind covering those, but then other ones are like really serious bad stuff, like domestic abuse stuff, and like worse than that even. So yeah, I don't know about that. Like, I've been meaning to cover it to some degree, but it's just really hard finding the right tone for a video like that. Captain Cook's expedition. That's an interesting one to look into, Mr. Peanut. That's very interesting. Braxton says you could also mention different types of bone locks and strength. King's move, side pressure, press, etc. in the iceberg. Yeah, I did mention those moves in the iceberg, but I think in general, like, the concept of a bone lock is something I could hone in on a little more. That's not a bad idea, for sure. But yeah, I did mention like the different moves and stuff before in these in my previous iceberg video. Chris Hemsworth testing his arm strength versus Levan. I think that was in the first one here. The exploding hand technique, that's another one that I just plain forgot in the first video, so I think definitely one that I'll be including in the second one. There's certain topics, like, people, like, some of these comments talk about certain topics that I can't really touch. I'm not above like mentioning it. If it wouldn't be like against YouTube TOS. Like if I mention certain topics that people reference here, my channel would get demonetized really quickly. So certain topics I just can't touch. I think you guys understand what kind of topics those are. Stand Up Rich from Travis Bajent is a really good one. Tell me I'm the greatest, stuff like that. I think Travis Bajent quotes might get a mention in the second video. Bone Lock, someone mentioning here. Yeah, that's a good one. Indeed. We mentioned it before here. The Javelin. The Javelin I kind of touched on in a different video already, but I might include that like very briefly. Hey Armenian Armor Slur, what's up? Calvin Jones says, I think one of the craziest things about arm wrestling is how divergent training methods are, from table time 3 times a day to gym training with table time once a month or so. Yep, I do agree, and that's not a bad topic. I might like include something like the Bulgarian arm wrestling training style. Maybe something on Kazakhstan starting their kids off really early, getting it actually into school programs and stuff like that. That's pretty interesting there. Forgot to mention, like, yeah. Like this one, I won't be reading this, but you can kind of get the gist of it. I just can't mention... Like I mentioned it in a previous videos, referenced it, but I can't go deep into stuff like that because, yeah, my video will get demonetized in 2 seconds. Unfortunate. Danny Tesh is another pretty good one. Can be a pretty deep reference. Danny Tesh meme. I like that one for sure. Dennis's KGB background. Don't know about that one. Don't know about that one. But yeah, stuff like this I obviously can't and won't talk about. Obvious reasons. Roy says, if I were to take a wild guess, they were probably doing some kind of arm wrestling in Mongolian Empire. Yeah, I don't doubt it. It's like one of these things where I'm sure they arm wrestled a bunch throughout history, and even quite probably in a competitive setting, or with some kind of goal at the very least. I just can't find any references to it, so I can't really prove it in any meaningful way, you know. Braxton says you could mention how arm wrestling is made out to be more dangerous than other sports, but it's actually far less dangerous and unfairly demonized. I like that one. I was actually thinking about a very similar thing that I could include in the video. I like that one a lot. I think a lot of people have like the idea that arm wrestling is just a quick way to break your arm, but not true if you do it the proper way. So yeah, like that one a lot. There's still music playing? Apparently not. Let me move on to the next one. Oh. Who do you think will win between Alijan and Devon? Has that match been confirmed? No, right? I don't know. I think that's a good match. I would probably give the edge to Alijan there, but I have no idea. I haven't seen Alijan pull in a while, so don't know what kind of shape he is right now. Yeah. A lot of good suggestions on here. I need to like hone in. Maybe Chuck will be willing to help me again in my research a little bit. Mr. Peanut says, I have ran, hosted, and completed events. Interesting, Mr. Peanut. Might have you might have featured in one of my videos. Who knows? Who knows? I'm trying to pull up the... Made so many videos already. Can you believe ARM Historian channel has been around for 3 years? I know there's been quite a bit of breaks in there, like months break sometimes, but like 3 years. Crazy to me. Time flies. Time flies. So many things happened in my life throughout those 3 years, but this channel has stuck it out so far. So yeah, very crazy. PR Snake says unrelated, but I think the fact that Alijan's limit has not been found is really interesting. No limits versus no limits. Yeah. I'd love to see it. Personally, I don't even know if like Devon would be the best match for Alijan right away. I think on paper at least Alijan should have that match pretty comfortably on the left hand. I think so. Hey Tony Rizzo, thanks for reminding people to hit the like button. Yeah, it's kind of a quiet live stream. I'm gonna check if Neil is going live soon. I don't know about that. There's a good chance I'll be going live next Sunday too. Maybe do like a end of the year live stream as someone proposed. Like maybe do a tier list or something of the best match of the last year. Love to see what you guys have to say about that. Get you guys involved in the voting process. I don't see Neil going live tonight, or at least he didn't set like a live stream to happen anytime soon, so yeah. Roy says, how easy is it for a ref in arm wrestling to dictate where the match goes? I think like in any sport, the refs have like a big responsibility, let's put it that way. They can obviously influence a match greatly. That being said, I think it's really hard to like flagrantly throw a match or have there be some kind of like interference that isn't warranted, if you know what I mean. In arm wrestling, I think it's a very hard sport to fake. Whenever you see matches that are clearly faked, it seems super obvious. Braxton McChris says Ozzy is going live in a half hour. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know. What about the setup? What about it? I think the setup is, I don't know, super important in matches. Like, I've been in tournaments, I've participated in plenty of tournaments myself, and I think the setup is one of the most essential parts to winning your match. Having a good setup. Do I think the refs can influence the setup? Yeah, for sure. For sure. Do I think in most cases they don't? Yeah, also that. I think in most, like 99.99% of cases, I think the refs want an honest match. Now, quote-unquote honest can be more or less beneficial depending on what style you pull in. I think like sometimes what the ref considers a fair grip or a fair setup might disadvantage certain style pullers more than others. So there is that. Yeah, I don't know if it's done on purpose, Roy, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's more a matter of like refs trying to be as honest and as fair as possible. But like, you can only do so much, first of all, and second of all, what might be considered fair to one guy might not be considered fair or beneficial to another guy's pulling style. So yeah. PR Snake, for example, Camille versus Devon, the setup was awful. Yeah, I do agree that sometimes they could do a lot better in the setup, for sure. Like at a certain point, I think, especially with like huge events, and when you're not talking about just a local tournament, but with like huge televised events, there's always some kind of process where a ref has to weigh, like, I want to be super fair with my setup or super fair with my reffing, but I also want the match to start eventually, and I don't want to foul people out. Yeah. So there is some kind of balance that they have to strike there that can be easy for a ref. That being said, I do think in some cases refs can do a better job and have done a bad job in some cases. So yeah. But in general, I think they do their best. It's a very ungrateful job and a very hard balance to strike, if you know what I mean. Ah, that's cool, Mr. Peanut. I didn't know that. Mr. Peanut says, after witnessing horrific arm break due to an uneducated promoter in 1987, teaching safety and keeping players safe from unscrupulous promoters has been my goal. To facilitate that goal, you're operating a self-funded non-profit company. That's really cool. Feel free to share that company with me if you want some promotion for that, Mr. Peanut. That sounds really worthwhile. You can send it to me in a DM or whatever you're comfortable with. You don't have to. But yeah, that sounds really worthwhile. I think like the misconception people have about the safety of arm wrestling might be one of the biggest things holding us back, or at least holding people back from trying the sport. When I invite people to try arm wrestling, even if it's on an official arm wrestling table, even when I tell them I practice this sport every week, every Saturday I arm wrestle very intensively. I know to a degree what I'm doing. I've been doing it for 4 years plus now, I think. Like even then people are very unwilling to put their arm on the line just because they have this notion that arm breaks happen so quickly and so often. Which I can't fault them. If you truly believe that and you have that kind of vision of arm wrestling in your mind, of course you're not going to want to try it. Who wants to break their arm for trying out a new sport, right? But yeah, I think if people were more educated on how to stay safe during arm wrestling and on the mechanics of arm wrestling and in reality how small the actual chance is you will break an arm. Like someone mentioned before, like you might have a bigger chance breaking a leg when you go to play soccer casually than when you have a chance to break your arm when you arm wrestle casually. Yeah, if people would realize that, maybe more people would actually try it out. Yeah, for sure, Braxton. There's also the fact that a lot of sports have a higher ceiling of potential injuries. Like you said, the worst thing that can happen on an arm wrestling table is you break your arm. In a lot of other sports, way worse things can happen. I agree there. PR Snake says, you say that in super matches they need to get it going fast, but I find that the setups in tournaments are more fair, even though it's quick. I think it's because more reputation in play in super match. Yep. Arm wrestling is basically who can cheat the most without getting caught. I hear you on that, but I think that's... you can boil down any sport to that. I think, like, in essence, you can say that about any sport. Athletes are always gonna want to find the closest point to the line you can get without actually going over that line, or even going over that line without actually being detected. I think that's just the nature of competitions, especially if there's money or, like you said, reputation on the line. I think that goes without saying, right? And arm wrestling is certainly not unique in that regard. I think people are always going to try to cheat or look for those outer edges of the rules, if and when they can. But that's my opinion, you know. I really enjoyed this, guys. I think I'm gonna wrap it up pretty soon here. Thank you once again to all the supporters, everyone that was here just talking to me, hanging out with me. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. Keep your eyes peeled on some videos coming out before then. I'm gonna try to release a big video before Christmas. You'll see me next Sunday at the latest. Probably gonna do like kind of a New Year stream too, where I'm gonna be going over I think the best match of the year, something like that, or ranking the best matches of the year. So definitely join me for when I'm doing that. Hope to see you there. Other than that, get your asses over to, I think Aussie Arm Wrestler is going live next. Dexter Tan might also be going live, so wherever you go, tell him the Arm Historian sent you. And yeah, hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Hope you enjoy Christmas, New Year, if I don't see you again before then, but I probably will. And yeah, happy holidays. Don't get too drunk, or if you do get drunk, stay safe out there. And yeah, happy holidays, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.